Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your girl, Shy Rosalind. And as promised, another edition of Notes from the Audience. Now, my last video, I had mentioned finding some patron saints for content creators. And guess what? I have a couple to share with you today. So, yes, this episode is patron saints for content creators because some of us, and I'm not naming names, need all the help we can get. And considering that somebody had some folks from another sector join them the other night, which was, how can I put this, raucous. Yeah. So, some of y'all church sector folks, y'all need some help. So I'm presenting some patron saints. I know most of y'all ain't Catholic. I'm kind of Catholic, so I did the research, so you don't have to. Um, so before we get into it, of course, we're going to do our housekeeping. Everything that's used is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I do not use clips in my videos because I don't feel like people coming after my little itty bitty channel for something that they don't like. Not necessarily something that's wrong, but just because they don't like what I have to say. I'm not in the mood for any of that. So I don't use clips. You don't have to worry about me using clips. I do occasionally use aliases if I have to talk about a particular content creator. I do use aliases. It just makes things easier and a whole lot more fun. So let's get into it. So, like I said, I found a few patron saints, and some of them were a bit of a surprise. So we're going to start with Carlo Acutis. Now, this young man was 15 years old when he passed away. How did he become a saint? 15 years old. It's because and as the research refers to him as the saint of the internet or God's influencer. Who'd have thunk it? He was canonized on September 7th, 2025. He's best known for using communication technology, including creating a website to document miracles to spread the gospel, and is associated with two miracles that led to his sainthood. He had leukemia. He passed away in 2006. There are other pictures of him participating with his church and stuff like that. I think, if I remember correctly, he did at some point have a Twitter account, maybe. I have to double check that. But he was very active, as these youngins are, on the internet, and he used it for good, not for evil. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, he passed away from leukemia in 2006. So for him, because he was documenting Eucharistic miracles, so other people can be canonized and be edified and canonized. He had two miracles that were attributed to him after he passed away. Now, I know some folks who are not Catholic are gonna have a fit, and they're gonna talk about all these miracles, yada yada yada. I'm just reporting what the research said. He was canonized because of these two miracles. A lily sprouted from his nose. I know it sounds weird. It sounded weird to me too. I had to double check. And his body remained undecayed, which I have heard of this happening before with other saints. Like the body stayed perfect from 2006 to 2025. I have heard of this particular miracle before with other saints. So I wasn't too surprised at that one. But the lily flower kind of had me thinking. I had to go double check that. But he is now a saint, and he's one of the youngest. So, several of the saints that I found in my research are women. So women were very active in the church, and they still are, as nuns and lay people. But some were um, considered experts at things that you back then you wouldn't assume women would be doing. As a matter of fact, even now, there's some people who don't think women should be doing what they were doing, but they were doing it anyway. So there. So one of the female saints that I found is Saint Clare of Assisi. She was born in 1194. She passed away in 1253. Now, she did follow St. Francis of Assisi. Now, we all know who St. Francis is. He's the patron saint of animals. People take their dogs and their cats and the camels and their horses to the church and they get blessed. That's St. Francis. Well, she followed him. So she took on the of Assisi. That's why she got that. She, believe it or not, is the patron saint of television and computer screens. That's right. That's what I said. Television and computer screens. I'll get to that in a minute. So she followed St. Francis, the St. Francis. She founded the Order of the Poor Ladies because St. Francis remained poor. He was he took a vow of poverty, so she did too. And she founded an Order of the Poor Ladies, which now is known as the Poor Clares. And I guess later in her life, she felt too ill to attend church. What the illness was, I don't know. I couldn't find out. But according to the legend or whatever documentation they had, she was in bed, but she could see and hear the mass. Um, they say that the images of the mass appeared on the wall of her room. So Pope Pius the 12th in 1957 named her the patroness of, at that point, television, which was very new back then. So he also said that it's a wonderful instrument that can be the source of very great wealth, who'da thunk, but also of deep troubles, who'da thunk. And as a matter of fact, you might as well just substitute YouTube for television. Oh man, I tell you, when I read that, I was like, ooh. So let's just substitute YouTube for television, folks. Very great wealth if you get in and find your niche sooner rather than later with those begging for super chats and asking for a tithe and asking for seeds and you know that kind of thing. But that's another discussion for another day. Um, so yeah, just substitute YouTube for television. And by the way, Saint Clare is also the patron saint of sore eyes. So maybe she had problems with her eyes, didn't see it in the research. Probably that's what it was. And embroidery. So those of you who do embroidery, I do a little bit. Embroidery, cross stitch. Saint Clare is your girl. She's your patron saint. So, um, and this information I got from the Garavanta Center. Um, I mentioned them at the end of this episode, so you guys can go and look for yourselves. Um, they whoever wrote this said, "Let let's invoke her prayers on our behalf." As we learn to teach and work online and perhaps cultivate new hobbies. In other words, St. Clair was like, get outside, go touch some grass. Oh man, I tell you that the parallels are just blew me away. So let us move on. And again, you're watching an episode of Notes to No Audience. I am a girl, Shy Rosalind. I am not a theologian. I'm not an online theologian. I am not one of these um, church sector experts and all that. I am literally just a member of the audience. I call I call it as I see it. I question what I question, and people are more than welcome to ask me questions or state their opinion as long as it's respectful. Like I said, I'm not one of these theologians. I have no connections to any big time church folk. That's not me. I'm just a humble member of the audience calling things as I see it. So, moving on. Another patron saint is Saint, I think I'm saying this right, Isidore of Seville. Now, Pope John Paul II named Saint Isidore of Seville the patron saint of the internet, which is interesting because Saint Isidore was a bishop of Seville in 600 AD. So yeah, that was before we had Wikipedia, but there is a reason. Saint Isidore was into learning. That was his thing. He created a school that became a model for universities. And yes, I know there were universities in Africa and all that. Yes, I know. And the universities in Alexandria most likely predated the universities that I'm talking about. Yes, I know. I'm just stating the research. Anyway, Saint Isidore also established norms for social justice and representative government, as well as helping people maintain foundations in the faith. But the main thing that he was into was he wrote a 20 book opus of just about any subject he could get his hands on. So we're talking language, law, biology, agriculture, church history, architecture, infrastructure. So he was he basically created an encyclopedia. He was Google before there was a Google, y'all. And like I said, yes, I know the Library of Alexandria and the folks, our folks in Africa probably had all this stuff way before but way before Italy and Rome. Yes, I get it, but I'm just saying. I'm just talking about patron saints today. So, Saint Francis de Sales, and I probably butchered that last name, but pardon me. He is the patron saint of writers and journalists. He was a bishop of Geneva. He passed in 1622. He his thing was trying to convert Calvinists back to back to Catholicism. So he wrote a ton of books, a bunch of like mini flyers, trying to get people to come back to the church. That was like the big time of the separation, the breakaway from the Catholic Church, and he was the one trying to get people to come back. He had a very interesting history. So if you want to dive more into what he did, feel free. So he's a patron saint of writers and journalists. He could also be considered the patron saint of marketing. So let's see what else. Oh yes, so he had a bunch of books that he wrote. The most famous of them was Introduction to the Devout Life, which basically was a guide for lay people on the best way to be a layperson. It was written specifically for lay people, not priests. And he actually um, wanted it for women. He wanted something for women. I guess the ladies who decided to become nuns. He wanted something He created something to help guide them as well. He counseled charity over penance. So he was big into doing things to the poor and that kind of thing over only doing confession and just doing penance. He felt that charity was more important. And next, now this particular person is my favorite. I'm going to do more of a deep dive on her just for myself, y'all. Unless you guys are interested, um, I could do something on her. Hildegard of Bingen. I think I said that right. She is considered a patron saint of artists, musicians, and researchers. I'm gonna tell you why. She was a Benedictine abbess in Germany. She um she was the daughter of some noble family in Germany, and she decided, instead of getting married and all that stuff, she decided she wanted to devote her life to the church. And there you go. Um, However, she was a composer. She was a writer. She was into philosophy. She was a mystic, and there is some when the word mystic comes up, people kind of get a little freaked out. um it existed, apparent according to the research. There were some saints who were considered mystics because they had certain visions and things like that. So that's a debate in and of itself. She was considered a visionary because she was very forward thinking, and she was a medical writer and a medical practitioner. Because remember, back in the day, usually it was the nuns that took care of the infirmary, so they were the ones dealing with those who were sick. Saint Hildegard, she actually created and maintained the monastery's herbal garden and the infirmary. So she kept a log of the plants and what they did, how to use them. That was her. She wrote a bunch of books. Um, the three that she's known for are the Book of Life's Merits, the Book of the Rewards of Life, and the Book of Divine Works. So she was into to the philosophy. Her big thing, she was a composer. According to the research, she composed at least 69 different kinds of musical dramas. They're also known as virtue plays. She also composed not opera, but operettas and that kind of stuff. And according to the source I found for her, some of those operettas and the dramas and just the music, they call them chants. Some of those are still performed. So this lady was very creative and very talented, and her talents went a long way, especially in the time that she was living in. So, and also, Hildegard, she was also one of the first women to be beatified, which is a step below canonization. But for some reason, something was going on in the church, and she didn't get canonized until 2012. So I guess they were kind of going back and forth, and she wasn't the only one. There were a bunch of people that should have been canonized sooner, but for some reason or the other, it just didn't happen. So in 2012, Benedict the 16th, you all remember Benedict the 16th. He was the one that decided to retire and said, "I'm out, peace," and flew off in a helicopter. Yeah, him. But he elevated her. He actually canonized her, so she officially got her sainthood in 2012. There is a website on her. There is a gentleman, and I have it on the next slide. He considers himself, what's the word they use? Um, Not a follower, but it'll come to me. But he has a whole biography on her. Like, she was mentioned in a bunch of films, which I didn't realize. Um, he has links to some of her musical stuff. He did a documentary on her. So if you're interested in Saint Hildegard, and she she had an interesting life. You might want to go check out his site. I'm gonna talk about it next in the next slide, but you might want to go take a look. It's very interesting. And speaking of sources, so the if you're in the mood to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, if you're curious, like I said, I may go back and do a little more extra research just for the heck of it. Um, these are the sources that I use for this particular presentation. The Gravanta Center, they are part of the University of Portland. They have a lot of the academic stuff. You can go there, type in the name of the saint you're interested in, and it'll pull up a bunch of stuff, and it will give you like a general history of the saint. SaintHildegard.com. Yeah, she she got a website. The filmmaker, his name is Michael Conti. He, like I said, he has extensive research on her life and what she did. And he's the one that did her biography, and just go check it out. It's actually quite interesting, especially if you're a history buff. And of course, I where everybody starts, Wikipedia. That's the starting point I use, just to find the other information and general information. When they birth and death and that kind of thing. If you are in the mood, please make a donation to Wikipedia. And Wikipedia, as we all know, is strictly volunteers. So they need donations to keep things going. So if you're in the mood, make a donation to Wikipedia, and help them keep it going. We don't have encyclopedias like we used to when I and some of us were kids. We don't have that anymore. We can go to the library, but Wikipedia seems to be where everybody is starting to look for stuff now. So I would say just give them a couple of bucks and let them keep going. So that was it. I didn't keep y'all long, like I promised. This is just a taste of what's out there. There are supposedly specific prayers for these saints. I did not delve that far. If anyone is interested, I can look and see what they are. Just a word of caution, because I know somebody's gonna say something. When we Catholics pray for the saints to intercede, we're asking for like a booster for our prayer. Like, for example, everybody knows Saint Anthony. You lose your car keys, you lose your glasses. You ask Saint Anthony, "Help me find my keys. Help me find my glasses." That's the kind of thing. Saint Jude. Everybody knows Saint Jude is the patron saint of lost causes. So you're broke and your rent's due, and you're hustling, but you just need that little bit of something. Saint Jude, please help me. Please intercede on my behalf. Please boost my prayer. So that's the general idea. We Catholics, we do not. The saints don't save us. Only Jesus can save us, and we know that. Jesus is our salvation. There's some misconception that we feel that we think that the saints are going to save our souls. No, that is not true. So I just want to make that clear. The saints are like I said, there are boosters. We ask them for assistance and intercede on our behalf, but we know that it's up to God. The final decision is his. So, um, so with that being said, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my little mini presentation. If it's not too hot, go outside, get some fresh air, because I know it's been hot here and I haven't really been outside because it's just too hot. But if it's cooled off where you are, please go outside, get some fresh air, stay encouraged. And to my fellow content creators, I've given you some ideas, y'all. some some folks that you can ask for intercession when people are trying to dog you out, and what they call it reading and calling each other out. Um yeah, so I gave you some names you can look into and ask for some intercession. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like to get in touch with me, my Instagram is Shy Rosalind, N is in Mary, D's and David, B's and boy. If you're in the mood and you want to send a cash app, whatever, you don't have to. It's Rosalind, Rosalind Jedi is my cash app. All one word. So, like I said, if you're in the mood, and I have an idea for another presentation. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I have it. So there might be another one coming up soon. And yes, I am returning to Beat in Chat. I have a custom order, so I'm going to work on it. That will be coming up soon. And I might go live with it. I might pre-record it. We'll see. So anyway, hope you guys have a great rest of what's left of the weekend. And comments are always welcome. Questions are always welcome. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Peace.